Hello folks, I hope that you're having just a great day today, keeping yourself safe in our modern COVID world. Today I'm taking a look at another story by Clark Ashton Smith, The Double Shadow, which is a fantasy story that is set in the far past. And it's set in it's about 10 pages in this collection of Vintage from Atlantis that I have been reading from reviews for you. I'll link you to this collection in the comments below if you're interested in checking it out. And picking it up, it actually has all of his short stories that are in fantasy, science fiction, and horror in a 5-volume collection. So if you're interested in checking out this prolific writer from the pulp era, then you'll be happy to do so. Now The Double Shadow is one that when he sent out to his friends like H.P. Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft thought this was a great story and one of the better written fantasies that Clark Ashton Smith had produced. And Clark Ashton Smith submitted it to the various markets that he was typically writing for, and those were Weird Tales and Strange Tales and a couple of others. All of them rejected it. And so, unfortunately, and then he got a second rejection from Weird Tales. So what he decided to do was he actually decided, and he had a few other of his short stories that were also rejected after being submitted to some pulp magazines. So what he decides to do is he decides to self-publish them under a collection. Now the collection's title in the early 30s is The Double Shadow and Other Fantasies. So he named that collection after The Double Shadow. This is the one that he is the most proud of. So let's take a little bit of a look at The Double Shadow. Now before I do my synopsis, I do like this story. It's very well written. It's very strong, very powerful. I give it a 7 out of 10 instead of my normal 8 out of 10 for Clark Ashton Smith, because I do think there's a couple places where he does a little bit more talking than showing in maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs here and there. So I would give it a 7 out of 10 rather than an 8 out of 10. But it's definitely worth your time. And it's a fun read, and it's 9 pages long. It took me in my oversized collection. It took me 20 minutes to read, and I read it for the first time 2 days ago, and I definitely wanted to bring it to your attention. So let's take a little look at The Double Shadow. What happens? We're going to open up, and we're going to find out a little bit about the era that this world is in, and the first page is going to give us a lot of sort of a detail of the era. And this is the page that I think has too much talking, not enough showing. I think if he had moved us to page 2 or page 3, I think it would have been a stronger story. But he has a lot of world building in the first couple of pages that set it up. But basically, our main character is going to be an apprentice to a master who is a master demonologist, a master necromancer, a master sorcerer, and he is somebody who will summon monsters, phantoms, the undead, demons, and other foul creatures in order to do his service. And he has never ever summoned a creature that has ever gotten something that he has not been able to control or dismiss. In the worst case, he's a very strong person. And they come across this ancient mirror plate that appears to be from Atlantis and from the Atlantean era. It seems to come from the Volusian Serpent Men that lived roughly around the same time as Atlantis. So because it comes from the Serpent Men, it's written in a Serpent Men language, which unfortunately neither our apprentice nor his master can transfer. And so this becomes an obsession with our master, who wants to find out what this lost piece of magical knowledge on this tablet appears to be. And he actually will summon an old person who's died a long time ago, who lived for centuries and centuries ago, who knows what this is and identifies it, but can't actually interpret it. So what he does is our master casts a spell that will send him the phantom that he summoned back in time, along his own timeline, to interact with the creatures, the Serpent Men, and then come back with the translation, which he does, and now he can translate the tablet. And that's about halfway through the story, so I'll go ahead and stop you there. What's going to happen after they translate the tablet? What's going to end up happening? It's a very interesting sort of a story, and again, it's a very fantasy story. It's a little sword and sandal, so it feels a little bit more like a Robert E. Howard fantasy story than a Clark Ashton Smith one. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun things happening. It's got some dark humor in it, which Clark Ashton Smith is famous for, and so there's a lot of that stuff that happens. A lot of gallows humor that happens too, which again he's very famous for, is definitely on point in this short story. So I'll go ahead and leave it to you. There's The Double Shadow. Have you heard of the story before? Have you read it? What did you think of it? Did you agree or disagree with anything here in my commentary? I'd be happy to engage you with it further in the comments below, whatever you think. If you enjoyed this story and this review, please feel encouraged to hit that subscribe button, because there's going to be so many more of these to follow. And finally, hey, I just want to thank you for taking a moment out of my time to thank you for taking some moments out of your time to watch my video. We all have so many things happening in our lives, right? And we're being pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I really appreciate it. So thanks again, and have a great day.